Greetings, everyone. Welcome to this section of our module. I am Christopher C., and for this module, we will be discussing meditation. Meditation is one of the most important aspects of our spiritual life. It is one of the three fundamental aspects of our theosophical life, which is study, meditation, and service. Let's begin first with the significance of this study. So why do we need to study meditation in this course about leadership in our own lodge meetings and study groups? So this study aims to help us understand the significance of meditation in our spiritual life. Specifically, it will help us to understand what meditation is. Of course, we will not delve deeply into the meaning of meditation. However, we will discuss its meaning just to help us to be able to facilitate meditation sessions within our own lodge or study group. And then it will also help us to identify the different types of meditation so that we will be able to understand the different types of meditation when we encounter them, or just in case we wish to incorporate these different types of meditation in our group or lodge practice. And then we also need to understand the many benefits of meditation, to understand the preliminary preparations for meditation, and of course, to help us understand how to facilitate meditation in group practice. For our agenda, we will be discussing what is meditation, why do we meditate, what are the psychological benefits of meditation, the physical benefits of meditation, the types of meditation, the common types of meditation, the preparation for meditation, and some common meditations practiced in the Theosophical Society. Madame Blavatsky has this quote to mention regarding meditation. So she mentions that meditation, abstinence in all, the observance of moral duties, gentle thoughts, good deeds, and kind words, as goodwill to all, and entire oblivion of the self are the most efficacious means of obtaining knowledge and preparation for the reception of higher wisdom. Again, this quote is a paraphrase of our theosophical life, which is a life of study, meditation, and selfless service. She also mentions that spiritual culture is attained through concentration. It must be continued daily and every moment to be of use. Meditation has been defined as the cessation of active external thought. Concentration is the entire life tendency to a given end. As you all may know, that in the more traditional forms of meditation, it is described as having three stages, which is concentration, meditation, and contemplation. And it all begins with concentration as the beginning point of our spiritual culture, of our spiritual training. So let's begin first with what is meditation. According to author Penelope Quest in her book Living the Reiki Way, meditation is an umbrella word that encompasses a multitude of techniques aimed at achieving an altered state of consciousness, resulting in a relaxed state that can eventually bring about enlightenment. So, meditation is a state of consciousness that aims to achieve enlightenment. Meditation is also a practice in which an individual uses a technique such as mindfulness or focusing the mind on a particular object, thought, or activity to train attention and awareness and achieve a mentally clear and emotionally calm and stable state. This is according to Walsh and Sapiro, two Western psychologists, in their book The Meeting of the Meditative Disciplines and Western Psychology, page 228 to 229. In this definition, there are two important aspects that we need to understand in order to fully understand the concept of meditation. In the beginning stages of meditation, two important things that we need to consider is that meditation is a state of focused awareness. It is a state wherein we focus on a particular object or on a particular sensation, such as in mindfulness awareness. But it is also a state of deep relaxation, and it is this combination, a state of relaxed concentration, that is the initial stage of meditation. So why do we meditate? According to his book, Lawrence Leshan, in How to Meditate by Lawrence Leshan, it's like coming home. We meditate to find, to recover, to come back to something of ourselves we once dimly and unknowingly had and have lost without knowing what it was, or where or when we lost it. We may call it access to our more human potential or be closer to ourselves and reality, or to more of our capacity for love and zest and enthusiasm or knowledge that we are a part of the universe can never be alienated or separated from it. In more theosophical terms, it's about connecting to our higher triangle or to our higher self. It is about connecting to the one spirit, to the one life behind all forms. So what are the psychological benefits of meditation? According again to Lawrence Lashan, there are two main benefits psychologically for the practice of meditation. The first one is the attainment of a second way of comprehending reality, which he calls or terms the mystical awareness. In other esoteric schools, it is known as the esoteric sense. It is this way of viewing reality that we are all interconnected, that there is one life behind all forms. So this mystical awareness becomes reality to a person who is meditating regularly. And this, I believe, is the ultimate goal of meditation, the development of this mystical awareness. And then the second psychological benefit of meditation, which is more easily attainable, is increased serenity and competence in daily life. Again, the increased serenity is brought about by our deep state of relaxation, and competence in daily life is brought about by our increased ability to focus on the here and now, as well as to focus on particular objects or topics within our mind. The physical benefits of meditation. So there are numerous benefits, physical benefits for meditation, but among those that are commonly listed by medical doctors is that it decreases or lowers high blood pressure. It lowers the levels of blood lactate, reducing anxiety attacks, and this is more because of the relaxation or the relaxing because of the relaxation that is brought about by the practice of meditation. It also decreases any tension-related pain such as tension headaches, ulcers, insomnia, muscle and joint problems. It increases serotonin production that improves mood and behavior. It improves the immune system, and it increases energy level as you gain an inner source of energy. So now we move on to the different types of meditation. So let us just be reminded that in the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali, we are reminded that yoga is not just the sitting meditation that we usually do. Instead, yoga is actually a lifestyle. It's a way of life. And there are 8 stages that we need to incorporate in order to achieve that yogic state of life. We will not delve deeply into this. However, if you are curious about the different or the 8 limbs of yoga, we suggest you study I.K. Taimi's work on the science of yoga, which is his commentaries on the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali. In the book again by Lawrence Lashan on how to meditate, he identifies the 4 major types of meditation based on what is commonly practiced in the West today. The first one is the path through the mind, which is known in ancient India as the Jnana Yoga. This is the path through knowledge. This is the path through philosophical study. So this includes studying or meditating upon sacred texts and scriptures. It also includes meditation on seed thoughts as practiced by the Alice Bailey group. It can also be meditation on ideals such as those practiced by other esoteric groups such as the Edgar Cayce group. It can also be the path through the emotions or known as Bhakti Yoga. So this is a devotion to a higher ideal or to a higher aspect of divinity or to a particular saint or master. Next is the path through the body. So this includes Hatha Yoga and other such moving meditation such as Tai Chi. And lastly is through the path of action or karma yoga. So karma yoga is actually about service. It's actually about doing good works. The entire concept of karma yoga is something which is of course very which is something very deep, and there we should have a separate module or discussion in order to fully understand karma yoga or the path through action. In another book by Penelope Quest, she also mentions that there are 2 types of meditation. One is that most Sufi, Christian, and yoga meditation techniques are based on heightened awareness. Here you are concentrating on a particular single idea or perception and seeking total absorption that leads to understanding. In these types of meditation, we follow the formula, the traditional formula of concentration, meditation, and contemplation. A second type of meditation is the Buddhist meditation, which focuses on mindfulness. And these are divided into two strands, which is Samantha or calmness meditation, and Vipassana, which is insight meditation. In this type of meditation, Samantha is the way of preparation, and Vipassana is the higher form or higher type of meditation. Other forms of meditation that we can practice are chanting or repeating phrases or mantras, such as Om Mani Padme Hum, or chanting of Buddha names or names of sacred beings. We can also do transcendental meditation. We can also meditate on objects like feathers or stones or other geometric shapes. We can also meditate on specific sacred symbols. We can meditate or concentrate on a candle flame. We can meditate on nature and the four elements. We can meditate on sound. We can meditate on particular colors. We can meditate on particular qualities such as compassion and loving kindness. We can also do moving meditation such as walking meditation or Hatha Yoga and Tai Chi. And we can also do guided meditation wherein we follow a particular guided visualization, wherein we are guided by a particular voice or recording in our meditation practice. So with this, let us now move on to our preparations for meditation. So according to Annie Besant, before contact with the world has disturbed the emotions, meditation should be resorted to. So coming back into the body after the period of physical sleep from a world subtler than the physical, the ego will find its tenement quiet and can take possession calmly of the rested brain and nerves. Meditation later in the day when the emotions have been disturbed and then when they are in full activity is not as efficacious. From that peaceful morning hour will stream out the influence which will guard during the day and the emotions soothed and stilled and will be more amenable to control. So based on this quotation, Annie Besant is recommending that we, of course, meditate at the start of the morning so that we are more calm and more rested and more peaceful. Of course, different people have different algorithms and different biorhythms. And we also need to ascertain for ourselves which time would be best for our meditation practice. So William Q. Judge also advises us, have yourself half an hour called half an hour earlier than is usual and devote it before breakfast to silent meditation, in which brood upon all great and high ideas. Half an hour, surely that can spare, and don't eat first. He also mentions that by setting apart a particular time for meditation, a habit is formed, and as time comes around, the mind will after a while become trained so that meditation at a particular time will become natural. Hence, it will be well for you to keep the same hour as far as possible. So this is important because for any habit to stick, we have to be able to do it consistently. And having a consistent time for meditation will help our mind, condition our mind to prepare for it. So if our mind is prepared to have meditation sessions every morning or during the afternoon, then the mind can anticipate that during this particular time, we will be ready for our meditation. Next, intent and reverent study may attract the attention of the writer, whether he be in or out of the body, and may draw him to the student, and thus cause the latter to be enveloped in his atmosphere quite as potently as though he were physically present. Hence the value of reading noble literature. We are keyed up to its level for the time, and such reading steadily preserved in will lift us to a higher level and establish us thereon. Hence the value of brief reading before meditation, lifting us into an air more favorable to the work of meditation than we can start from unassisted. So here, Annie Besant advises us that if we can do some short readings on theosophical topics or reading from some sacred book or sacred literature prior to our meditation, it will help prepare our mind for the reception of higher truths. It will also prepare our mind to become more receptive to higher ideas. As to the place, Annie Besant advised us that we have hence the value also of holy places such as meditation, places where the atmosphere is literally vibrating at a higher rate than our own. Hence, the advice so often given by the instructed to keep, if possible, a room or closet set apart for meditation, such a place soon gaining an atmosphere purer and subtler than that of the surrounding world. So here she advises us that we should also have a consistent place for our meditation. This is because the place imbibes the vibration that we have. Therefore, because the higher vibrations are already within that place becomes a storehouse for these higher vibrations. It becomes easier for us to attain a higher level of awareness or consciousness during this particular place or during this particular time of meditation. Of course, having a consistent time and consistent place for meditation is the ideal setup. However, if we're not able to do this, then doing meditation in any place at any given time is, of course, better than not meditating at all. However, if we can set up our space and our time so that we can create a regular period of meditation within a particular place, then that would be the ideal scenario. It would help assist us in achieving higher states of awareness. Posture. We must not think that there is any virtue in making ourselves uncomfortable. On the contrary, when the physical body is comfortable, we are better able to think of higher things. There are two objects with regard to the position of the body during meditation. First, it should be comfortable so that one can easily forget it, for that is what one wants to do. Secondly, it should be such that if in meditation we leave the body, which might happen at any time, it will not hurt itself. In such a case, the effect on the body will be as though we have fainted. In common meditative in popular mainstream media, we often see meditators going into a deep lotus position in order to meditate. However, this is not always ideal, especially for Western people. Generally, any position that is comfortable for you and that's stable and safe is the ideal posture, because the sensations from the body, if it's uncomfortable, can also become a hindrance or a distraction to our meditation. So it's best to assume a comfortable position, according to C.W. Leadbeater. And here are some of the common meditation techniques that we use in the TS. So the meditations in the TS, of course, are numerous, but these are the four most common meditation techniques that I have encountered in my stay during as a member of the Theosophical Society. So the first one is the classical meditation, which is also a form of mindfulness meditation. Next is the metta or loving kindness meditation, where we send out good thoughts to our fellow men or fellow human being and to all beings. We also do healing meditation and yoga of light. So we will create separate sections for examples for these common meditation techniques that you can utilize in your own lodge or study group. So let's end with this quote from Annie Besant. So Annie Besant says that the man of meditation is the man who wastes no time, scatters no energy, and misses no opportunity. In the appendix that follows is Blavatsky's diagram of meditation, which is a food for thought if you want to study deeper into the theosophical ideals of meditation. However, since this discussion or this module is only an introduction to meditation and how we can use it in preparation for our lodge or study group, we will not delve deeply into this study. And let us end with the last words of Madame Blavatsky. Let us keep the link unbroken. Thank you. Thank you for your time and for listening to this discussion.